Good evening, everyone. TGT Media is an entertainment industry interview show where we interview the creative people from the comic, film, TV, movie, and video game industries. And of course, I'm your host, Kurt Sasso. We are joined today on episode 331. And one of these days, I'm going to count all of the other interviews I've done in the past to make it the proper count. But we are joined today by a wonderfully talented animator and comic creator. We've had her on the show in the past, and she's extremely talented. You may remember her from back in the day with Mars Rocket, but you know her now for Valkyrie Squadron as well as Misfit High. We're joined today by Misfortune High. Damn it. Why am I calling Misfit High? We are joined today by Jules Rivera. How are you doing today, Jules?
Hello, I am great. It's a beautiful day here in Los Angeles. How are you?
Freezing our butt off in southwestern Ontario, but I'm doing wonderful.
Really? Is it cold right now?
It's like 45 degrees.
Oh, see, and that's why I don't live anywhere northern than the Mason-Dixon line. Oh, no. Oh, no.
But we're not here to talk about the weather. We're here to talk about you.
You should talk about me. Alrighty then. Well, where do we start?
Well, you know, I think let's start with your most recent thing that you're doing here, and that's your Kickstarter campaign for Misfortune High.
That's right. So yeah, let's just get right down to it. Misfortune High, this is actually the prototype book that I've got set up. This is roughly about the size of it. Your average comic size is about 6 and change by 10 and change. Anyway, Misfortune High is the story of a set of inner city kids who run into this rich kid who has recently been kicked out of a fancy magic school. And as punishment, he has been sent to a magic school in the ghetto. And it's all about how he copes with his new situation and how he deals with all the new people that he meets and how the new people that he meets deal with him. So it's a really fun ride. It's a nice subversion of the typical Slay the Dragon kind of fairy tale. And it's a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun to do. So right now I'm running a Kickstarter on it. And there are 18 days to go as of today, but we're 80% funded. So, yay! Everybody in my social network, they have done such fantastic jobs in putting out the word, helping spread the word. I've gotten a shout out on Bleeding Cool. I submitted an article to them, and they ran it this weekend, so that was pretty cool. I've put it into a couple of other sites, but I also got a really good review from comicbastards.com. So, as it turns out, they're very nice people. They just don't happen to have fathers. Waka waka. But yeah, that's how the campaign's been going so far. It's been very well received. Weirdly, it's also done well ever since I added the other book that I work on, Valkyrie Squadron. And Valkyrie Squadron is a sci-fi action piece that I ran as a webcomic up until about March of this year, and then I took a break to get back into school. I had a very big animation project that I completed for school. We'll get to that in a bit. But Valkyrie Squadron, I'll be starting that back up early next year. Whether or not I want to start it back up as a webcomic or just as an independent graphic novel that I would just sell PDFs for, it's kind of up in the air. But I find that, when I start marketing Valkyrie as an OGN, rather than page by page by page by page, rather than doing that, I've noticed that people really respond to it a lot better. Plus, this book is digest size, and it's just a really nice, it's a great print, it looks really pretty. I mean, these are just a few examples of some of the pages inside. It's a very lovely book, and it shows very well at conventions. Every time I brought it to shows like WonderCon I sold out completely. Latin Comics Expo, that was also a sellout show for Valkyrie Squadron. I mean, they just do very well as books over, just a webcomic that people happen to find and get updated every so often. So, I'm really excited about the new format. I really am.
No, that's awesome. I think I remember reading. I have the Valkyrie Squadron book 1 from back when you first printed it, and I love it. I still flip through it because it's just so nice and colorful, and you always have great colors too. Vibrant colors. It really draws your eyes towards it.
Well, in sci-fi these days, there's this big trend towards really dark and dour stuff. And, with Valkyrie, I kind of wanted to push back in the other direction and do something with a lot more color and a lot more kind of razzle dazzle, pizzazz, you know. Also, the fact that the Valkyries themselves, they're kind of color coded. I mean, that sounds really dorky, but it's true. Here, let me pull this up for your audience, and then they will be able to see for themselves. This is the original cover.
Yeah.
I do believe this is the cover that I sold previously, or something really similar to this. So as you can see, the Valkyries, they're color-coded women, you know. Kind of helps you to tell them apart a little better when they've all got their helmets and stuff on. So since they're color-coded, you couldn't get away with just doing super dark, dingy, miserable colors. So yeah, everything's very, very bright and very active.
So then, with Misfortune High, though, I mean, you're still taking a great overall story. I think that it's great to see, you know, a rich kid finally, you know, get knocked down a peg or two or 3 or 20.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like that. A lot of people love the pitch where I say it's about a rich kid who gets sent to the ghetto. They're like, ha, F that guy. Yeah.
But why the change from a sci-fi to a more fantasy magical style?
You know, it's kind of funny. Because in my past career, I guess, as a comic artist, all I've ever really done was either cyberpunk or sci-fi. Because Mars Rocket was about 300 years in the future. So yeah, I guess that is kind of a shift for me. But it was just the concept that really kept sticking in the back of my head. You know, the idea of this kid who would kind of be almost sort of from a Harry Potter type story, and watching him get knocked down a peg and thrown into the wolves in some crappy magic school. Because when you watch movies like Harry Potter or a number of other kinds of like magic stories series, it all takes place in a lovely castle with your flags and plaid everywhere, and you know, it's this very whimsical environment that I think kind of leaves out a part of the real world that exists, the poor one. And you know, I always wondered, why is that? Why do they? I mean, I know it's all about escapist fantasy, but I think certain kids in certain situations, they need escapism too. And if they can see characters that are more like them, they can, you know, more identify with the stories rather than, oh, just some British kid gets to go to a fancy school, BFD, you know? So that was, the concept was just too strong. It was actually it happened before Valkyrie Squadron. Misfortune High was a story that I had come up with probably during the Mars Rocket era, but I thought, okay, well, let me just table this, and maybe I'll come back to it later. I'll have some good ideas. When it came time to start Valkyrie, I had thought, well, I could also start this ghetto magic school story, but then I was like, I don't know if I have the art chops to make it happen. But somehow I did have the art chops to make the sci-fi thing happen. I don't know what was going on there. But the truth was I didn't have enough story fleshed out. It wasn't until this past summer, not this past summer, but the last summer, 2012, summer of 2012, that I started talking to a couple of writer friends about other possible projects to do, because I was getting a little burnt on Valkyrie, you know, doing it for almost 2 years straight. So Misfortune High just kind of grew from the resultant brainstorm. And it turned into, you know, this big thing. I was like, oh man, this is such a cool thing. Now I've got cool ideas and a story and a direction and characters, and it's really, really fun. And, you know, I even figured out a new art direction for it. Because Misfortune High, unlike Valkyrie, there's a lot more natural media coloring in it. So here, I can actually pull the book up and show you with your eyeballs. Let's see a good example of some natural media coloring.
So
I mean, if you look really closely at it, a lot of the pages, they have this kind of really rough marker-like texture. Mm-hmm. And that's because in the coloring process, I'll color the flats digitally, but what I do is on top of the 11 by 17 ink board that I'll do, and also the inks are a lot looser on this story than they are on Valkyrie. Valkyrie was all about being very controlled and very precise. Misfortune High is kind of about letting loose a little bit. It's supposed to look like somebody's sketchbook. So on top of the 11 by 17 ink boards, what I'll do is actually put an 11 by 17 piece of vellum and then just marker shade on that. And that gives it, and plunk that scan into Photoshop, and that gives it that really kind of rough markery look. So it's a marriage of natural media and digital media to come up with something that's really unique.
I think it's interesting. I like that sketchy style that looser style than what we're used to seeing from you as well. It must free you up, artistically as well, rather than sticking to a strict pattern.
Yeah, it really did. It really kind of unclogged my creative gears too. Like I said, I started getting burnt out, but just trying new things can really unlock an artist's kind of creativity. Just doing new stuff is cool. So yeah, I kind of got inspiration for the kind of looser ink style from a couple of different artists. One of whom is Jamie Hewlett of the Gorillas. Just his overall understanding of shapes and volume, and his kind of sort of looser ink work. That kind of gave me the idea to kind of loosen up and break out a little bit, and I think it's paid off. I also use a much looser brush on inking Misfortune High. Usually with Valkyrie, it's like this really super hard, pointy felt tip pen, or it's digital. But Misfortune High, I like the whatchamacallit?
The brush?
Unpredictability is the word I'm looking for. The unpredictability that comes with like a much looser felt tip brush where it just goes, ooh, and you just kind of go with it. You're like, yeah, cool, I meant to make that mark. That's a good idea. And that's what gives it a much more improvised look. So Misfortune High, I mean, I'm a storyteller. It doesn't really matter what genre that I'm working in. So I can tell a sci-fi story, I can tell a fantasy story, I can tell a slice of life, whatever, because it's all about telling a story. The genre really just dictates the rules of the world. Like in Valkyrie, you wouldn't have access to things like magic or shapeshifting, but you would have access to, robotics and a lot more technology and a lot more sophisticated displays and UIs and whatnot. Versus Misfortune High, where you've got magic fireballs and dragons and stuff. But otherwise, the storytelling is the same on either front.
And it's a good story overall. I mean, especially with 80% funded in the Kickstarter too. When it comes down to it, though, you're not just working with comics now. You're doing a lot more merchandising as well too.
Yeah, I guess so. Here, let me show you this. This is really special. She's 5 inches tall. This is the sculpt that I have on the Kickstarter page. Let me hold her up to the camera a little closer. As you can see, this is a sandstone print that I got out of Shapeways. And this is a prototype. The one that I actually put out for the Kickstarter will probably be smoothed off in a couple of areas. But otherwise, this is a lot, kind of more in the direction that I'm moving in. I'm kind of exploring the idea of doing more sticker prints and whatnot. And with Valkyrie, I actually got these really neat acrylic chains made. And this is really great. This is a charm cut from acrylic. It gives it this really super cool sci-fi look. And it's cut in a circle so it doesn't poke you at all. Because I've had a couple of these acrylic necklaces, and one of them has like this super pointy part to it. And every time I lean in the wrong direction, I'm just like, ah! So I learned from that, and I learned to just enclose everything in this really neat circle. But it's really pretty, and just kind of adding more items that add interest to the stories, because I kind of got burned when I did Mars Rocket, and I kind of put the cart before the horse, where I did a lot more merchandising than I had any business doing for the story that I hadn't really marketed all that much. So now I've learned, market the story, and then you can add on a little bit of merchandising later. But with a Kickstarter, you kind of have to do it all at once, too. So, because you want to be able to offer swag and stuff like, oh, I'm offering these really cool prints, I'm offering these really cool poster cards. If you want to be a successful business person in regards to comics, it's always good to have something that, you can merchandise on top of that. These comics themselves, they don't have a super high margin, especially the Valkyrie books. I've always printed them on demand, so the per unit cost is kind of high. So it's good to add items like this that, have a slightly higher margin on them, and they're also really pretty, and get, everybody can show their school spirit and say, look, I've got this charm, it's super pretty, and you don't.
Then they'll get them, and then it'll be kitsch and, all that other fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
You also said you went back to school, too, in animation, I believe you mentioned. Yes. Well,
I kind of slipped on a banana peel and ended up in animation. That's how that happened. In 2000, 2012, last year, I left my regular day job. I was an engineer, and it really wasn't all that fulfilling for me. So I left to go effectively join the circus. I mean, as far as my old coworkers are concerned, but I left and I went to Los Angeles to bone up on entertainment design. What does that mean? That really just means drawing concept art and pretty pictures for production of movies and video games and whatnot. So I started off at Nomad School of Visual Effects, but I kind of bounced around to another school after that. But over time, like about 2 terms in, 3 terms, signing up for my 3rd term, there was a bunch of classes I wanted to take, but they were all filled up or they were on Sundays, and I get a rule. I don't take classes on Sunday. So there was this one class that was just principles of animation, and it just looked like a lecture course, and I thought, oh, well, that looks kind of neat. I'll just go ahead and take that course. But it was a full-fledged animation course where you learn to animate stuff. You draw on paper, do your bouncing ball test, and what do you know? Now you're an animator. So after the first term, there's a 2nd term class you take, and in the 2nd term class, you put together an entire short. Well, that's where I did the Breaking Bad short. I did a short. It was based on there's a running test in animation. It's called the gumball test, and it's about a character. He puts a little coin in a gumball machine. Gumball machine doesn't give him nothing. It's about how he reacts. So I did the same thing, but with a cartoon Walt White with the Breaking Bad backdrop. And right now that's hit about, I don't know, I guess 16,000 views on YouTube last time I checked. So that's kind of a lot. That's kind of a lot more than some of my other projects. So it was really crazy just putting that together in 6 weeks straight, man. I had my nose to the grindstone, just drawing and drawing and drawing. And in hindsight, I probably could have done that a little smarter, but now that I know a lot more about Flash animation, but live and learn. As a result of learning how to animate, though, I ended up getting a freelance job over at ADHD, which is really cool. I got to work on this new show that they're putting out next month. Next month, November 2nd. It's called the Lucas Brothers Moving Company. It's actually about these 2 brothers who were actually they were extras in the last season of Arrested Development. I don't know if you saw that, but there was one last episode where they had a whole bunch of different sets of twins. Well, the Lucas brothers are actually one of those sets of twins, and they've been working with ADHD to launch this pilot show of theirs and their wacky adventures, and it's a great show. All right, I won't tell you too much because obviously NDA stuff, but there will be wrestlers, and there will be crazy drunk chicks, and there will be smoke monsters. By the way, animating a smoke monster, that's rough stuff. It was like a whole 16-hour marathon of just line, bum, 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 bum. Oh my god. It was worth it. The resulting thing that I've got is so cool, and I can't wait to show people in my demo. But again, I can't put it in my portfolio publicly until November 2nd, until when it airs. But yeah, just working on that project was really cool. And also for Misfortune High, I started doing a couple of little small animations of the characters just dancing around and, just showing really silly things. I've gotten 3 done so far. One of the main character, the rich kid, he's dancing to Carly Rae Jepsen's Call Me Maybe. I'll have to send you a link to that. It's amazing. Yeah. A lot of people really like it. But, oh my god, editing Carly Rae Jepsen's Call Me Maybe. Just, never doing that again. What else? The next one was, kind of more of an 80s retro beat. And, you've got the girl from the statuette. She's dancing to that. And I actually got a character rig for her so I can start animating her with voice, because I figure I can actually do her voice. The guys, I can't do their voices. My voice doesn't go that far down. But the girls, I could probably, animate and show them talking and stuff, saying, "Hey guys, we're here for Kickstarter. It's really great."
Well, if you need a voice, I can do that.
Like a dude voice?
Yeah, well, dude.
Dude voice. Dude voices. Bruh, bruh. Well, we can talk if you're interested in doing some voice work for sure. Wow. What else? Oh, and the third one was of the kind of gothic bad kid of the series, and he's just feeding his birds because he's a guy who always hangs out with an entire flock of crows, and he's just sitting there feeding his birds. The crows are all headbanging in the background of Nine Inch Nails. It was a really great short.
How long is it? 2-3 minutes?
Oh no, it's not nearly that long. It's only like 20 seconds because it's just animation on a loop. But in the case of the Cuervo short, there's just a lot of tiny little animations. Like the guy moves his head and he blinks and kind of makes different facial expressions while he's feeding a bird, and the bird is kind of moving around and moving his head and sticking his head into a little bag of feed. And of course, you've got all the birds headbanging down on the ground level, and headbanging requires a few extra frames of animation. The thing with Flash is that you're actually doing a lot of micro animations. A lot of people think that Flash is all about puppetry, where you just have symbols and you just rotate around and well, that looks like a thing that's moving. But I just found that there are better ways to do it, and that if you just animate within the symbols that you're working with, you can actually get much smoother, creamy animations. They look really great. So that's something that I learned as a result of working on Lucas Brothers. So it's really great to gain more experience and add that to my own work, and then the two experiences build on top of each other. Very, very exciting stuff.
Yeah, I wish we had something like that, but so far I haven't seen it, so I'll have to stick with film stuff for now. It's amazing since we first chatted all those years ago. You've really grown as an artist, and especially you've always constantly improved yourself. You've always stayed active. You haven't really rested on any one particular series to keep you going. So I'm glad that you're always constantly improving yourself. But let's kind of take a more philosophical approach to your life and yourself, for that matter. Everyone usually has that one person that kind of set them on their path to where they are now in their life. Who is that for you?
Gosh, I think my husband has done the most to encourage me to this particular path. If it wasn't for him supporting me through school, I don't think I could have really done this. Or, I could have, but, I'd be starving and eating ramen noodles for an entire year going through school. It was really him that who really kind of encouraged me to keep going and go to school and learn new stuff and keep trying hard in my animations and whatnot. I'm really lucky to have him. I'm really lucky that he understands this whole crazy thing, because there's some people who, the people they married, they kind of don't really get the whole comics thing or animation thing. They don't really get it, and they're just like, you're a weird person, and you just spend all your days drawing stupid cartoons, and that makes you weird. Why don't you come out and play golf with me? Like, I know of at least one such guy, and he sounds like, I'm not naming names, but he sounded like, every time I kind of talk to him about his situation with his wife, it just sounds like he's not all that happy. And he just ran he's doing very well in his work and everything, but he's just kind of in that situation where it doesn't seem like enough people around him understand what he's doing. So I'm just grateful that my husband is at least one of the people who just kind of gets it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself successful?
I don't know. I guess I'm starting to be successful-ish, maybe. I think the reason why I changed gears so many times is because I felt like a failure for so long. I finished off Mars Rocket, and that was good. But I kind of saw how it did at conventions, and I was like, this doesn't sell all that well. And after a while, you just get tired of fighting that uphill battle of trying to sell it to people. And I found that all ages comics works a lot better for me in terms of, the kind of audience that I'm building, and, the kind of synergy I'm building with that audience. That kind of weird cartoony style that I have, it kind of plays a lot more into an all-ages story. So, especially once I started doing Valkyrie Squadron, people at cons, they love Valkyrie Squadron. They see the hand-painted cover, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's so great. It's about kick-ass women. That's so awesome. I'm so glad that someone like you is doing this. And like, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I feel really good about that. And, just not resting on my laurels was just a result of not feeling like I was succeeding. And even then, Valkyrie as a webcomic, I don't think it was ever really able to gain traction, which is why I took a break from it for a while. But, getting inspired by Misfortune High, and then getting back into Valkyrie Squadron, doing some scripting for that, just kind of feeling, the different responses from people, and the different responses that I feel for myself. Like, oh my God, I just did this cool thing. It's really, really cool. Like with Valkyrie, I did this really cool exploratory painting for one of my digital painting classes, because I like to make my classes do double duty. So, if I can make a class where I'm like, oh, I do this artwork, and it's for a thing called Misfortune High, or a thing called Valkyrie Squadron. And my final for digital painting actually was a Valkyrie Squadron piece, and a lot of people really, really dug that. It was of the integration ship getting sucked into a black hole. So a lot of people, yeah, you saw that one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a cool one. So, just kind of trying new things, and, trying to build myself into a, bigger, badder beast by just kind of never being satisfied. And I don't think I ever will be satisfied. I don't think so. Just because, there's always more horizons to explore. Like, I'm not nearly as good a painter as I want to be, and I'm not nearly as good an animator as I want to be. So that's going to take ages to get to where I want to be once I get the time to hone my craft. And even then, once I get there, how do I know I'm still going to be satisfied? I'm never going to be satisfied. So that's just kind of part and parcel with the art gig. You're just never satisfied, and you're always trying to learn new things to bring to your craft and take it to that next level.
I was just waiting in case you had to say more to say.
Yeah, it's just me. I'm dropping the mic, having some tea.
Awesome.
I think that'll have to be my signal. I'm done talking. Here's the tea.
Fair enough.
And I drink it with my pinky out.
Oh, very well. Actually, you should have it with the hand that you're drinking with, but that's just a British thing.
See, that I was being ironical with that. Glad you caught that.
Do the Dr. Evil as you're drinking. That would work out well too.
I'm taking over the world, one comic strip at a time.
Then, how do you deal with your failures?
Regroup. Sometimes you just need to take a small break. You just feel like, oh man, I got knocked down. Probably the biggest, I guess you could call it a failure, was last year I went to CTN, that would be the Creative Talent Network Expo, and that's in Los Angeles every year, Los Angeles, Burbank area, depending on how much of a purist you are about that sort of thing. Anyway, it's in Los Angeles every year, and last year I wanted to bring the board that I had done for my storyboarding class to CTN for a portfolio review. Well, I did go to a portfolio review, and I did actually end up talking to, one of the higher up creative dudes in the company. You could tell he was like a bigger deal because he wasn't wearing one of the goofy polo shirts that the other kids in the company had to wear. I was like, oh, you must be important. You're wearing normal people clothes. So we took a look at my work, and he was like, you could do better than this. Go get, my buddy Marcos Mateo Mestre. He does this book called Framed Ink. Go get his book. And I felt like, oh no, I'm super sad. I wanted him to tell me, yes, this is fantastic and wonderful. We'll hire you immediately. But of course, it's not going to happen on your first try. That's a silly thing to expect. I hoped, but I guess I shouldn't have expected. And it was a gut punch and a half. But actually getting that book and reading it really just blew my mind. All of the framing things and the storyboarding things that this book has to offer. And again, it's called Framed Ink, and it's fantastic. I recommend it all the time now. Ever since I read it, it's just such an amazing book. Teaches you about composition, shapes and composition, why certain shapes remind you of certain things, what kind of camera lenses do what, that sort of thing. How not to step over the 180 line rule, because a lot of people, they talk about the 180 line rule, and once you see it, once you know it and get it, you can never unsee it. And I'm pretty sure I broke that rule plenty of times when I was, kind of younger and probably didn't know as much stuff. And, you get older, you get a little wiser, and you learn more things. And that's why I will never, ever really be too satisfied with what I do, because there's always more stuff to learn. So that was, from that, I spent about the rest of the weekend just eating ice cream and feeling sorry for myself. And but then I got to reading the book, and I was like, okay, this is this is good advice. This is really really helpful stuff. I'm glad this guy pointed me in this direction. So whenever you get a setback, you kind of stop, regroup, examine what you're doing, see if you can't ask advice from somebody like in a circle of trust or something like that, and then just move on. Rather than, I mean, yeah, you might want to take a day or so to, eat your bucket of ice cream and feel sad, but don't stay there too long. You gotta get moving. You just can't stay sad forever.
The younger generation, they see you at conventions, they see you, your work, they look at Misfortune High, not Misfit High, and they see your colors, they see your style, they may have interacted you at some point in time, either on the web, Twitter, whatever, and become inspired by you. The question is then, how can they either inspire themselves or the next generation that follows them?
By working their butts off, really. I mean, I worked a lot to get to where I am. I mean, a lot is such an understatement. I don't even know how many hours of work I've done. A lot. I mean, I've been doing webcomics on and off since about 2003, but really intensely since about 2006. And you kind of don't get here without hard work. And I think a lot of kids, they would do well to not be afraid of the hard work. The work is good. You want to do good work. And, a lot of people, they also get afraid of, oh my gosh, I put out this one drawing, but it looks crappy and I'm going to stop now. I see so many people who do that, and that depresses me, because there really aren't enough artists in the world. I want to see more people like me, because I walk down the street and I'm kind of, the only weirdo around who spends their time drawing scribbles and stuff. And I want young people to, don't be afraid of the hard work. Just put in the hours. Ask questions. Oh, for the love of God, ask questions. It's totally cool to ask questions because, I think a lot of, when I came into my own as an artist before I moved out to Los Angeles, or actually more appropriately before I moved out to San Diego. San Diego was kind of a different vibe for me altogether. But before I moved out to San Diego, I just felt like I was so alone, and I didn't really seek a lot of advice. I didn't really have any art mentors back in Florida. So, definitely seek out an art mentor and just don't be afraid of the work and do the bloody work. And you will get there. It takes time, but I didn't get there overnight either. There are some people who are overnight successes, but more likely than not, it's just gonna be one long linear progression over the course of your career. And that's the sort of thing that you do that kind of turns you into that guy who inspires people. I mean, I'm a little weirded out because I guess I've turned into that guy. It's really weird. I never would have expected people to say, "Oh my gosh, you're an inspiration to me. You really inspire me to do stuff." Like I had this one girl who she talks to me. She kept up with me after meeting me at Latin Comics Expo, and she says, "Yeah, after reading Valkyrie Squadron, I kind of saw that comics was a thing that I could do, and now I want to do that." And I'm like, "Whoa, that's really crazy." There's a huge sense of responsibility there now. You're like, oh my God, wait, what? I'm your mentor? Oh no more drunken pantsless parties for me. God, I gotta set an example. Oh man, that's always scary. But it is good to know that I'm doing, some kind of work that I guess inspires people or, helps people or whatever. That's really cool stuff. One trick I like to do, and this is the best trick that you can do in the universe if you want to get a kid to like you. One thing that I've learned is you ask a kid their favorite cartoon character, and then you draw it for them. And they will love you forever and ever. So if you can be that guy, especially if you show up to, birthday parties and whatnot, obviously birthday parties of children to whom you are acquainted, like family members or whatnot. Don't just be a weirdo showing up at birthday parties. Hey, kids! They will haul you off in the paddy wagon. But, volunteer at schools and whatnot, just kind of do tech demos for students and kids and stuff, and they'll love you. You'll be such a cool dude, man. Such a cool guy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you'd love for the watchers and and listeners of the show to know about?
My Kickstarter video is really neat. I worked in After Effects on it.
It's very well done.
Yeah, that's really neat. What else? Valkyrie is going to be launching back probably early next year. So, like January or February is when I'm, launching to get the Valkyrie train back going again. What else? I don't know. I think we've covered most of everything.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, we can find Valkyrie Squadron at
www.valkyriesquadron.com.
And of course, the Kickstarter, I'll make sure we post an active link there as well to it. And any other animation videos that you'd love for everyone to watch and see, I'll post them as well too.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and email you those. They're a lot of fun, and it's really good to just start exercising my art muscles in new ways. Art in animation is a whole different ballgame than art in comics. I mean, not totally, because obviously being in comics is what got me to working in animation so quickly. But learning new things in animation can come back and bring new things to learn in comics as well. So that's a really, really cool thing. So I really like doing animations now. So I'll go ahead and send you those links. You guys are gonna love this. It's gonna be so fabulous.
I love the Breaking Bad animation you did. That was awesome, and
yeah.
I'm glad that you stayed sane throughout all the music you had to listen to over and over and over again.
Well, in that case, the Ballad of Heisenberg. It's kind of a goofy song, but it's not a terrible song. Not like Carly Rae Jepsen's "Call Me Maybe."
I'm surprised you didn't do the whole Taylor Swift version of it.
What? There's a Taylor Swift version?
Yeah, I thought she was the one that originally did it.
No, was she? I don't know. I always thought it was. Well, it was popularized by Carly Rae Jepsen, but
I think Taylor Swift did another version of it.
That's horrifying. I won't go anywhere near that. That's terrible. No, I don't think I will be working with that. No, thank you.
Or you could do a Screaming Goat animation with it too. Then
Screaming Goat. Sure, why not? I can animate a goat screaming like a champ. Wow.
Look up Screaming Goat on YouTube. You'll find it hilarious. It's actually really good. Awesome. Well, Jules, I hate to say it, but that ends this episode, unfortunately. And thank you so much, as always, for coming on the show, even short notice as this is.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, especially under such short notice.
Which is fine. I always love having you back on the show. It's been far too long since you've been on. So, that ends this episode. We have another episode coming up later on this week. Of course, next episode will be with Teenage Love Zombies comics. So that'll be on Saturday, and a lot of other great, fantastical comic people that'll be on the show, whoever they are. I'll have to look on the schedule. But you can, of course, find that at tgtmedia.com. You can, of course, listen to this show or any other show interview we've had, as Jules says, the British finger point. And you can find those on iTunes by searching TGT Media, as well as going on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TGT Media. And look for all these amazing, great, talented people as well. And you could even be on the show if you go on the schedule interview or suggest interview portion of the tgtmedia.com website. And hope everyone has a wonderful night.
Well, it's been a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Oh, no problem.